1v1, wear it quickly, Shuangtian. Crazy criticism of the Blood Queen versus noble and indifferent Lord God. A female supporting actress with a perfect life is driven crazy step by step, despite having everything she wants. The male lead is abusive, the female lead is abusive, even the male lead is abusive. Since it has already been criticized wildly, then let's sink together. No, why did some little girl suddenly lose her composure? Stay here, everything you want is for you. Get lost. Crazy criticism is not silly criticism, silly criticism. Stay here to be your wife. The female lead is both in flirting, pursuing a career, while the male lead specializes in spoiling his wife. Keywords of the novel. Crazy criticism of female characters is not easy to provoke without pop-ups. Crazy criticism of female characters is not easy to provoke. Download the full text. Crazy criticism of female characters is not easy to provoke. The latest chapters. Chapter 1. Miss only likes obedient toys, 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Miss only likes obedient toys, 1, Mississippi. On the marble floor, curled up was a slender young man with fair skin covered in bloodstains, clearly having just been beaten. The young man's weak voice made his heart tremble. If the young lady doesn't believe me, you can kill me. The last sentence carries a broken sense of despair, making people feel heartbroken. But Shuangtian felt that when the boy with a delicate face and clean features was beaten, he carried a sense of his favorite fragmentation. Shuangtian tilted her head slightly, with an innocent and inexperienced smile, but the bodyguard holding the whip felt the chill emanating from the young lady's body. The boy who was beaten was the young master of the Lu family, Lu Zai, who was sent by the family to his original owner from a young age. The original owner did not feel sorry for Lu Zai, but instead treated him with courtesy. Until 3 days ago, the original protagonist and the female protagonist of this article, Fu Xinya, were kidnapped together, and their personalities changed greatly after returning. Pa! The whip fell down again, and the young man held it silently, his hands tightly clenching under his sleeves. The smell of blood permeates the air. Killed you. Killing is illegal. Don't harm me, but I know my grandfather just gave the Lu family a piece of land. I heard that this land can bring your Lu family back to life. Shuangtian reached out her hand and gently wiped the blood from the corner of the boy's mouth, with a gentle attitude as if caressing her lover. Not very delicious, but it's actually the blood of the son of luck. What do you want? The young man looked up at Shuangtian with a heart-wrenching sadness in his eyes. This harmless face is very different from the face that was filled with hatred when Shuangtian was imprisoned and humiliated in the later stage. Shuangtian, do you know that every day I used to be with you, I was so disgusted. The cold face of the man many years later overlapped with the cold face of the young man in front of him. Shuangtian's smile was brilliant, like a delicate rose. So disgusting, still marrying the original owner for revenge. Lu Zai, it's really not easy for you. That day you chose to save Xinya, I was very sad. Shuangtian reached out and the back of her hand brushed against the skin on the young man's chest, her nails not long but perfectly embedded into his wound. The boy's slightly restrained voice made Shuangtian even happier. Does it hurt? But when those whips hit me in the warehouse that day, I also felt a lot of pain. I really went back to find you that day. But you were already rescued. Lu Zai lowered his head slightly, his wet hair draped over his eyes, filled with tender sincerity and regret. If this can calm my anger, I can. Shuangtian's hand caressed the pale face of the young man. The original owner had been doting on him since childhood. How could he possibly pay attention to Lu Zai? So, Lu Zai directed and acted in a kidnapping case. Unfortunately, there were variables, and the kidnappers also kidnapped Fu Xinya. Lu Zai chose to rescue Fu Xinya, while the original owner was rescued by someone else. The abuse suffered during the kidnapping left an indelible shadow in the heart of the pampered original owner since childhood. When the original owner was repeatedly tormented by nightmares and on the brink of collapse, it was Lu Zai who stayed by her side, never giving up. The original owner thought it was true love, but little did she know that she had gradually fallen into the hunter's trap. Lu Zai, do you know? I'm very troubled now. You were a toy sent by the Lu family, but you're not obedient at all. Otherwise, I'll take you back to the Lu family. What do you want me to do? There was finally a hint of obvious panic in the boy's tone. He hate me but need me. Lu Zai is an illegitimate child, and it is the Lu family that tramples on his dignity, not the original owner. However, when seeking revenge, Lu Zai vented all his anger on the original owner. Never mind, for the sake of how much I like you, I'll just whip you a few times, but... Shuangtian stood up and turned around, looking at the oil painting hanging on the wall. You have to count it yourself, 15 times, a little less, just wait to hear the news about the bankruptcy of the Lu family. Such a proud boy, you should lower your head to be cute. Lu Zai looked at the bodyguards around him and the girl with her back to her. She would never do this to herself. It's okay, he has been by this girl's side since childhood. Knowing her, there's always a way to make her believe in him again. Humiliation and unwillingness turned into a mouthful of blood swallowing down his throat, and Lu Zai said in a hoarse voice, okay. Pop. 1. Why is the voice so low, Lu Zai? When you saved Xiaoya, your voice was so loud. The girl's innocent voice was full of confusion. Pop. 2. Upon hearing the young man suppress his emotions and amplify his voice to count, Shuangtian left satisfied. On the balcony, the bright sunshine sprinkled on the green apples, mottled and full of vitality, forming a sharp contrast with the bloody scene just now. Host, are you a bit ruthless when you take action? The male lead is very vengeful and will seek revenge. A snow-white kitten jumped onto the balcony at some point and looked at Shuangtian. Yeah, otherwise I'll kill him. Will he never suffer again? Shuangtian leaned against the window and gently stroked the kitten's hair with her hand. No, host. If the male protagonist dies, the world will collapse, and the host will never be able to live without 3,000 worlds. Tsk tisk. Shuangtian stroked the kitten's hair and thought of the man who was tall and sorrowless. Lord God, at least we have been together for 100 years. You are really cruel to me. You would rather expose yourself than trap me. Host, it's not you yet. If you can't fight, you'll just strip off your clothes, which angered the Lord God. The little white cat shakes its hair. Think about it this way, his figure is really good. Shuangtian's voice was sweet, with a girl's coquettishness. But he really thought this would trap me. But it's you, the system carried by the Lord God personally seems very special. Shuangtian gently curled the white cat's hair. Host. The little white cat jumped out of the girl's arms with a meow and lay at Shuangtian's feet. I am the new system 000, personally developed by the main god. In recent years, the hatred of the female supporting characters who have been deprived of their luck by male and female leads in the 3,000 worlds has become increasingly strong, affecting the operation of the main system. It is necessary to eliminate their hatred. But in these stories, the original male and female protagonists also had strong luck, so far, the hosts I bound have not escaped the fate of tragic death. White Cat's voice was a bit disheartened. I haven't earned any points now. The main god was preparing to personally check the problem, but you and the main god got into a fight, and I fell out. I don't know why I automatically bound you. So, are you actually a waste? Q was the waste system swollen and broken at the beginning of the game. Online waiting, quite urgent. PS, 1v1, both the male and female protagonists have a clean body and mind. 1. Raging Scum Revenge Cool Article. Female Powerhouse. Female Lead Control. Dominating Scum Male. 2. A career-oriented female lead, not a romantic brain. to fulfill the various wishes of the original owner. The male lead will slowly cover her up and she will appear more and more. Don't worry. 3. Every male lead in the world is the same person, without any memory. 4. The scumbag in the article is not the male lead. A scumbag will always pursue his wife at the crematorium, but he can't catch up. 5. Male lead male Durban outstanding student graduates. 6. The female goose is biological. Never be wronged. Anyone can be abused except for the female goose. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Miss only likes obedient toys, 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Miss only likes obedient toys, 2, host. White Cat Committee rubbed Shuangtian's ankle hesitantly. No, I'm the latest system currently available with many features to unlock. Look, I can also transform into a physical entity to accompany you as long as you have points. The little white cat's head was drooping, feeling a bit lethargic. After so many failures, it is a bit skeptical that it is useless and should be destroyed, as other systems claim. Alright, isn't it just points? If you win, you'll have it. Shuangtian lightly tapped the head of the little white cat buried in her body with her toes. My lord, please wait for me. Hee hee. Thinking of the man's sweet blood and cold face, his smile was deep. Host, please receive the plot of this world. The original owner's name will be automatically changed to Host Your. A black light flashed past, and the plot emerged in Shuangtian's mind. The original owner's life was before the age of 19, with a perfect script, good family background, excellent childhood friends, and a matching fiancée. Until the transfer student named Fu Xinya appeared, the people around the original owner began to slowly approach Fu Xinya's side, and everyone loved her. And this time, when the original owner was kidnapped, everyone surprisingly chose to rescue Fu Xinya first, causing the original owner to be abused by the kidnappers for a day and a night. The original owner's heart began to twist, only to see Lu Zai as a redemption. In order to retain Lu Zai, he did a lot of bad things and embarked on a path of betrayal, but in the end, he was personally sent to prison by Lu Zai. On the day of being arrested by the police, the original owner went crazy. Although he injured Lu Zai and Fu Xinya, he still did not change his predetermined fate. Later, the female protagonist influenced the male protagonist, and the male protagonist gave up revenge. After going through countless hardships, the two finally got together. And the crazy female supporting roles, who caused many setbacks in their lives, ultimately suffered humiliation and committed suicide in prison. Here, the story happy ending. Host, the original owner's hatred value this time is 3 stars. His last words are: hate Lu Zai for never loving her, hate Fu Xinya for taking everything from her. It's all so miserable, still hoping to get the love of that man. TSK no wonder the hate value is only 3 stars. Host, don't underestimate these crazy female supporting characters. Their hatred is difficult to erase and they are often teamed up by everyone, leading to even more extreme behavior. Many hosts are solved halfway through the mission. Crazy. Is that interesting? Shuangtian chuckled as she listened to the sound of whips and the voice of a boy intertwining in the neighboring room. Is Lu Zai? A toy should have the appearance of a toy. 3 days later, Yunzhou University. The Yunzhou University that the original owner attended was a top-tier university in the country and also an expensive private school, specializing in cultivating descendants of the country's upper-class wealthy and a few top talents. Various luxury cars were parked at the entrance, and those who got off were family heirs with prominent domestic backgrounds. Even so, a red sports car easily caught everyone's attention when parked at the school gate. The car door opened and Shuangtian got off in a custom-made red dress. With long black hair and a confident smile on her face, it was hard to distinguish between the red on the car and the red on her body, which was more dazzling and eye-catching. Shuangtian looked at Lu Zai, although his body was covered in injuries. Standing beside him, she couldn't see anything unusual. The collar of his black shirt was tightly buttoned, and there seemed to be an indelible sadness between his eyebrows and eyes, which could easily inspire sympathy in others. Still, that is the campus grass of Yunzhou University that creates ripples in people's hearts. It seems that the whip is not enough. Surprisingly, you still have the strength to pretend. Isn't that Miss Xie from the Xie family? I thought she wouldn't come to school again. The students around were whispering to each other. Is that the illegitimate son of the Lu family behind her? Lu Zai abandoned Miss Xie for the sake of that transfer student, but Miss Xie actually showed mercy and took him with her. But Lu Zai looks so pitiful. He must have some ulterior motives, right? Don't be fooled by his appearance. I heard he did a lot of despicable things when he was at the Lu family. Xian. In the noisy crowd, a short-haired girl ran out like a wind. She looked at Lu Zai disdainfully, then turned around and grabbed Xie Qingshuan's hand, unable to conceal her excitement. Xian, are you okay? I didn't even answer your phone calls. I went to find you, but you didn't see me either. Don't worry, I found someone to teach that girl Fu Xinya a lesson, and she actually caused you to be kidnapped. Song Yun. She is a good friend of the original owner and also the eldest lady of Buell, the largest entertainment company in Beijing, because Lu Zai fell out with the original owner. Even so, in the end, in order to avenge the original owner, he did his best to deal with Lu Zai, but was framed by Lu Zai, deeply involved in the entertainment industry scandal, and ultimately committed suicide. It's a bit miserable. Why worry about Fu Xinya? Xie Qingxian grabbed Lu Zai's collar and forced him to lower his head to look at him. Lu Zai is only half a head taller than Xie Qingxian, and this posture makes their faces very close together, which is extremely ambiguous. During this period, the original owner and Lu Zai had always maintained a distance, and there was no such closeness. Lu Zai was momentarily stunned. May I ask you something? Are you mute? Lu Zai didn't know what was on his mind, so he tilted his head slightly and said, no. Tisk. Xie Qingxian released Lu Zai with some disdain and looked at Song Yun. Where is the person? The art department. Song Yun looked at Xie Qingxian and then at Lu Zai's pale face, feeling that their family's Xian and this illegitimate son were not doing well today. She leaned into Xie Qingshuan's ear and said, Xian, you scared me to death. I thought you couldn't take it easy. How could it be? That's good, I'll tell you, don't be angry about people like Lu Zai. He doesn't deserve it. Song Yun glared at Lu Zai, I'm just a bystander, and I still have the face to save the beauty with heroes. Xie Qingxian smiled and nodded. The original owner had a beautiful face, which was unusually cold when not smiling, but with a hint of charm and allure when smiling. When Song Yun spoke, Lu Zai beside him remained calm, but with only one word from Xie Qingxian, he raised his head slightly. Not suitable. Who can match you, the towering princess of the Xie family? Xie Qingxian took a few steps and found that Lu Zai was still in place. Still not leaving. Xie Qingxian hooked his hand to Lu Zai, clearly teasing him. No matter how late it is, you won't be able to save the beauty as a hero. Lu Zai's eyes darkened as he walked over. The wound on his body was not yet healed, and every step he took would tug at the whiplash marks on his body. Pain, but cannot stop. These people cannot be provoked by Xiaoya, he cannot implicate Xiaoya. As for the rest, he will slowly recover it in the future. Her affairs have nothing to do with me. Lu Zai tried his best to keep his words emotionless. After listening to Lu Zai's words, Xie Qingxian nodded thoughtfully. She held on to Lu Zai's wrist, her fair hands contrasting sharply with the black sleeves of the young man. If you don't save me, then I'll be the hero. You watch. In the eyes of everyone, Miss Xie of the Xie family is really different from Lu Zai. Such things have happened now, and she is so close to him. Only Lu Zai knew that Xie Qingshuan's hand was tightly gripping the unhealed wound he had been beaten on. The heart-wrenching pain instantly overflowed all over my body. Collecting and following up are particularly important for writing. Please collect and leave a message. Requesting recommended tickets. Don't praise me. Momo, end of this chapter. Chapter 3. Miss Only Likes Obedient Toys, 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Miss Only Likes Obedient Toys, 3. In front of the art department building, a few girls were fighting together, and the girl in sportswear in the middle was the protagonist of this article, Fu Xinya. Her hair was disheveled by the smashed eggs, but she still stubbornly refused to give up. Stop it. Two voices ringing at the same time. One is Xie Qingshuan. One is a tall and handsome young man running from not far away. His delicate short hair was a bit messy, but it couldn't conceal his sunny and handsome demeanor. At this moment, his handsome and sunny face was filled with anger. With a loud bang, he fiercely smashed the basketball in his hand onto the ground, throwing it far away, and no one around dared to make a sound. Host, this is Sima Li, the male second in the original text. The young master of the Sima family, a military and political aristocratic family, and one of the influential figures of Yunzhou University. Due to his family background, no one dares to provoke him. Sima Li, what an impulsive young man. At first, Sima Li looked down on Fu Xinya, so he was always in trouble with her and wanted to drive her out of Yunzhou University. Who knew that Fu Xinya was not as afraid of him as anyone else, and there were several times when she dealt ruthlessly with Sima Li. But Sima Li slowly became interested in dealing with Xinya. Who made you pay attention? Don't you want to live anymore? Get out of here. Sima Li was burning with anger. These bastards, even though they had already said they couldn't bully Fu Xinya anymore, dared to take action. Compared to Sima Li's impulsive anger, the young man who came with him stood quietly and elegantly not far away. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and held several books in his hand. Under the sunshine, the young man in a white T-shirt seemed to emit the fresh scent of the first ray of sunshine in the morning. However, his expression was cold and distant, as if everything had nothing to do with him. It seems that this is the fiancé of the original family alliance. Student Union President Ji Boyan, along with Sima Li and the original owner, were good friends who grew up together since childhood. He doesn't appear much in the novel, neither did he like the female lead Xie Qingshuan in the early stages or did he like the female lead Fu Xinya in the later stages. After graduating from university, I broke off my engagement with Xie Qingshuan and went abroad, without being involved in any emotional entanglements with a few people. Seeing Sima Li and Ji Boyan, the girls who were entangled with Fu Xinya, instantly stopped. These two people are people they can't mess with. But they looked at Xie Qingshuan and Song Yun again, these two are also not worthy of being provoked. After some thought, a leading girl stood up and said, we just want to help Miss Xie take a breath. Ah Xian, didn't I mention it before? The kidnapping incident has nothing to do with Xiaoya. Sima Li frowned, but his voice unconsciously lowered. Even though he was angry, he still didn't want to get angry with Xie Qingshuan. But why does Ah Xian always struggle with Fu Xinya? Before, Ah Xian was not like this. She would also like things she likes. It's not Ah Xian, I did it. Song Yun stood up, who let her cause Ah Xian to be kidnapped. Moreover, Master Sima, it was you who said Fu Xinya was against you and wanted to teach her a lesson. In the original text, due to Sima Li's questioning, Xie Qingshuan and Sima Li argued and angrily left. Not only did it allow Sima Li's hero to save the beauty and ease the relationship between Tong Fu Xinya, but it also allowed Lu Zai's comfort and care to appropriately move the original owner. What Song Yun said is not wrong. Sima. Xie Qingshuan walked up to Fu Xinya, squatted down, and looked directly at her. Lu Zai thought she was going to humiliate Fu Xinya and couldn't help but want to step forward to stop her, afraid that Xie Qingxian would harm Fu Xinya. However, Xie Qingxian took out a handkerchief and gently wiped off the egg on Fu Xinya's face, while the corner of her eye lit up as she looked at the nervous Lu Zai. Lu Zai stopped, his eyes surprised. What kind of tricks was Xie Qingxian playing? Are you testing yourself? Still testing Sima Li. Fu Xinya knocked off Xie Qingxuan's hand, but Xie Qingxian repeated the previous action. Fu Xinya looked up slightly at Xie Qingxian, waiting to fight back against her humiliation. As a result, Xie Qingxian did not speak to Fu Xinya at all, but looked at Sima Li with a subtle expression. Sima, didn't you say that you hate Fu Xinya? When she rebelled against you, you forced her to drop out of school, made her embarrass herself in class, declared that she would be your enemy in the future, and allowed others to bully Fu Xinya. Isn't all of this done by you? I hate her, but... Sima Li felt a bit guilty. Don't turn your head, his anger has decreased by half. At that time, I didn't like Fu Xinya. But I haven't confessed to Fu Xinya yet, and there are so many classmates here. Ah Xian is still looking at me, how could she say these words? That's strange. What position are you taking to save her now? Xie Qingxian spoke very slowly. A gust of wind blew by, and her long black hair was lifted, giving the girl a hint of ethereal inspiration. It's really strange, isn't it? At the beginning, it was all Sima Li who did these things. How come in the end, he was forgiven, but the original owner became a vicious female companion who bullied the female lead? Ah Xian, Xiaoya has just been discharged from the hospital and needs to improve. You can just give me face and let this matter go, okay? Sima Li felt that he and Ah Xian were such good friends, and the person he liked, Ah Xian would not be too difficult. Although he was a good friend Sima Li who stood unconditionally by his side from childhood to adulthood, he repeatedly pushed himself away due to Fu Xinya's appearance. How could the original owner not be disappointed? So she turned around and chose to grab the rope of Lu Zai, and there were traces of her being dragged into the abyss. Fu Xinya, look how good Sima is to you. What about you? Do you like your boss Molly? Xie Qingxian slowly wiped off the last trace of egg liquid on Fu Xinya's face. What a stubborn girl. I like it a bit. Xie Qingxian likes all stubborn things, so beautiful, like weeds growing again in the spring breeze, full of vibrant life, constantly growing. How could it be? I don't even like playboys like Sima Li. Fu Xinya looked at Xie Qingxian with firm eyes. Does Xie Qingxian think everyone treats Sima Li as a treasure like her? I didn't come here for Sima Li from the beginning. That's really great. Xie Qingxian stood up, you have to remember what you said. How can someone who is bullied fall in love with the abuser? In the original text, the original owner also asked Fu Xinya the same question, and Fu Xinya answered the same question. But later on, Fu Xinya not only dated Sima Li, but also hesitated between Sima Li and Lu Zai, leading to more than one big fight between the two over her. After experiencing entanglements, Fu Xinya finally confirmed her love and stayed by Lu Zai's side. Listening to the exciting and thrilling plot of the Shura Palace, Xie Qingxian didn't even want to disrupt the direction of this exciting plot. Miss loves Shura Field the most, P.S. But the female protagonist is not a romantic brain, she wants to pursue a career and is determined to fulfill various wishes of the original protagonist in each world and leave the small world. The male protagonist will have a long journey of pursuing his wife, and their relationship will sublimate in every world. Don't worry, babies. We need to seek revenge first and help the tragic original protagonist regain his luck. We cannot let the scumbags be carefree and happy. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Miss only likes obedient toys, 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Miss only likes obedient toys, 4. Starting from today, Fu Xinya is the person I protect. If anyone touches her, they won't be able to get along with me. When Shuangtian said this, her voice was very soft and her face clearly had no expression, but as we all know, what Miss Xie said was never a joke. The people around were all surprised. What kind of reversal is this? Even Fu Xinya looks unbelievable. And this sentence was originally spoken by Sima Li in the original work. Xian, are you? Sima Li was stunned and his attention completely shifted to Shuangtian. Xian, is this for your own sake? She has never looked up to these things, and is it surprising that she is protecting her heart for herself? Sima Li's heart was warm, and indeed the friendship between him and Xian since childhood was not fake. Thinking of this, Sima Li felt that his attitude towards Xian had been a bit bad just now. He wanted to speak and ease the atmosphere, but Shuangtian did not give him a chance. Her young girl helped Fu Xinya up with a warm smile on her lips and said, "Since you promised me, you must keep your promise. Otherwise, no matter what I do in the future, you will have to take responsibility. Are you not angry?" Fu Xinya looked at Shuangtian, seemingly unfamiliar with her, and said, "Shuangtian, don't you hate me? Why did you help me? I have never disliked you." Shuangtian lazily raised her finger to Sima Li, "I just dislike someone Sima hates because Sima is my friend." Sima was stunned, as if he had indeed complained to Shuangtian before. Fu Xinya disliked it so much, but he didn't expect that Xian was really taking it so seriously. Seeing that Sima Li was not speaking, Shuangtian's voice sounded slightly low. "However, Sima seems to no longer consider me a friend. Sima Li spoke up but was interrupted again by Shuangtian. "You even forgot that the person who was kidnapped was me." Shuangtian's petite face showed a hint of desolation. When did the beloved young lady have such an injured expression? "You see, it hurts so much." Shuangtian lifted her sleeve, her arm showing shocking whiplash marks. "They dare to touch you." Sima Li roared, his eyes filled with angry crimson. In the original work, Shuangtian always blamed Sima for not coming to save her, but her innate pride made her say nothing and refuse to show her scars to anyone. Sima Li, who was full of nerves, didn't notice at all. He thought Shuangtian had truly forgiven him, but he didn't know that Shuangtian had suffered such a serious injury. He wholeheartedly chased after Fu Xinya. Shuangtian attributed all of this to Fu Xinya. She couldn't get along with her everywhere, and of course, Sima Li would stop her. 1-2, coupled with Lu Zai's instigation, the conflict between the two grew deeper and deeper. "I've been waiting for you, Sima. But you didn't come." Shuangtian lowered her eyes slightly and then smiled. Under the sunshine, the corners of the girl's eyes seemed to turn slightly red, and her smile seemed to turn into a touch of red in the snow, bright and beautiful, yet also shocking. Sima Li suddenly felt a surge of blood, and his mouth opened, wanting to speak, but he couldn't say anything. The strong sense of guilt even masked the anger when I saw Fu Xinya being bullied just now. He stepped forward to catch Shuangtian. Shuangtian turned around without hesitation. The relationship between Sima Li and Shuangtian for over a decade can be changed by the appearance of Fu Xinya. However, everything the original owner said was hidden in her heart. Pushing aside those who cared about her, misunderstandings grew little by little. I believe that even Lu Zai, who had been deceiving her from beginning to end, had problems. "It's okay, just make changes when you know you're wrong, you're still a good student." Shuangtian tiptoed lightly and whispered in Lu Zai's ear, "Lu Zai, I just saved your beloved. But you need to think carefully about how to repay me." The girl's burning breath brushed against her ear, and Lu Zai instinctively took a step back. He lowered his head and said, "I told you, I don't like her." But his gaze turned to Fu Xinya not far away. This gaze coincided with Sima Li's gaze towards Shuangtian. Sima Li always felt that he and Shuangtian were childhood sweethearts, and Shuangtian would forgive him for anything he did. But he actually saw alienation in Shuangtian's eyes just now. Even Lu Zai didn't save her. She's not angry with Lu Zai. Is it cold and indifferent to oneself, and so affectionate to Lu Zai? Who is her friend on earth? The more Sima Li thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt, and his gaze at Lu Zai became sharper. Lu Zai was not willing to be outdone, unlike his cowardice towards Shuangtian. He looked at Sima Li with an undisguised chill in his eyes. The undercurrent surged between the two people, and even those around them felt their hostility towards each other. Can you help catch insects? I will make changes together when I have time. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Miss only likes obedient toys, 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Miss only likes obedient toys, 5. Fu Xinya was a bit unhappy when she saw this scene, thinking that the anger of the two boys came from their possessiveness and jealousy towards themselves. Sima Li has targeted Lu Zai more than once. She won't let anyone bully Lu Zai. This is her only purpose here. She blocked Sima Li's gaze and said, Sima Li, don't come to me again in the future. I don't want to have any relationship with you. At this moment, Sima Li's attention was no longer focused on Xinya. He watched as Shuangtian pulled Lu Zai over, while Lu Zai obediently complied. Damn it! When did the two of them get so close? I have long known that the illegitimate son of the Lu family who stayed by Xian's side was not well-intentioned. Feeling the scorching gaze of Sima Li behind her, Shuangtian smiled with satisfaction. Sima Li, you should know that friends are not always by your side. However, such a beautiful mood was interrupted by Ji Boyan's cold voice. Shuangtian was absent from class for 1 week without reason, resulting in a deduction of 10%, Bo Yin. You know. Xian was clearly kidnapped. It's not innocent absenteeism. Sima Li pushed aside Fu Xinya, who was blocking his view, and roared at Ji Boyan. Bo Yin, are you too unfriendly? Bo Yin, hello, Ji Bo Yin, after she takes a leave at the teaching office, come to me to cancel the record. Sima Li's noisy shouting did not affect Ji Boyan's emotions at all. That day in the warehouse, when he saved the original owner, he was also so indifferent, as if no matter who was kidnapped, he would come to his rescue. When the young man speaks, his mouth opens and he plays back, his lips are really beautiful, thin and easy to bite. Shuangtian, who was sitting in the classroom studying on her own, was playing with a pen while thinking about the boy who looked abstinent and cold. Shuangtian licked her lips. Since coming here, she hasn't eaten anything, and she really wants to smell the smell of blood. I'm so hungry. A hand holding an insulated lunchbox tentatively reached out in front of Shuangtian. Xian, what's wrong with you? Looking at Shuangtian as if he hadn't seen himself, Sima Li decided to sit next to her and said, my aunt cooked a really delicious chicken soup today. I've brought it specifically for you. I don't want to eat. As soon as Shuangtian stood up, he was pressed down by Sima Li again. Sima Li said urgently, are you still angry with me? I was going to save you that day, but Xiaoya ran out covered in blood and fainted on me. I was also scared at the time, but I asked Bo Yin to find you. Shuangtian looked at Sima Li, a boy who had been by the original owner's side from childhood to adulthood. When did his thoughts start to flow onto Fu Xinya? Can't you forgive me? You don't blame that stinky kid from the Lu family. We are best friends. Are you treating me like this? Is it a bit biased, or are you really in love with Lu Zai? The last sentence was a bit loud, and many students looked over. Only Lu Zai had a straight back and was taking notes seriously, as if he hadn't heard anything. But no one saw it, and there was a heavy mark with a pen on the neat notebook in front of him. What are you looking at? Have you ever seen someone apologize before? Sima Li looked at the people around him, his eyes full of arrogance. The young lady of the Xie family is the only one who can make the young master of the Sima family apologize in a low voice. The people around didn't want to have a conflict with Sima Li, so they all started doing their own things and no longer paid attention to this side. Shuangtian looked quietly at Sima Li and waited for him to finish chattering and talking like a machine gun before saying, "Forget chicken soup, I hate chicken. The taste of chicken blood makes people feel a bit nauseous just thinking about it." Sima Li was originally a bit anxious and wanted to continue explaining, but when he saw Shuangtian's gentle smile, he inexplicably calmed down. The glass buttons on the girl's red dress shimmered in the sunset, making her cheeks even more fair and delicate. "I want to pinch it." Sima Li rubbed his eyes. It must be that the sunlight was too dazzling. What was he thinking? "I heard the strawberry bread in the school store is quite delicious. Can you help me buy some? Anyway, you never go to self-study. Aren't you not eating outside? If you want to go, go." Okay, as long as Xian is willing to take care of me, I will pick all the stars for you." Can even stars be picked? What a good friend. Later on, how could he be so ruthless? When Shuangtian was most desperate, she said, "We will never be friends again." Friend. Sima Li, please return to Miss Xie's side obediently. Even if I'm covered in blood and covered in bruises, I'll crawl back. Friend, we should never deviate. After self-study, a boy ran in and whispered to Lu Zai's side. Shuangtian watched as Lu Zai hurriedly left the classroom and stood up helplessly. In this world, is the protagonist's luck constantly relying on the male lead and supporting heroes to save her beauty? Shuangtian lifted her hair behind her ear, revealing her delicate neck. "This way, I'll be very tired." A few male classmates next to me suddenly turned red. "How do you feel that Miss Xie has become even more beautiful after coming back from illness?" On the other side, when Lu Zai arrived at the rooftop, Fu Xinya was blocked in the corner by a few girls, holding tattered books in their hands. It seemed that she had fought hard just now. Have I ever said that Fu Xinya is now my person? A lazy voice came from behind Lu Zai, interrupting what he had to say. Everyone turn around. Just look at Shuangtian leaning against the door of the rooftop, with a hint of displeasure in her eyes, as if she is looking down at everyone from above. But that arrogant expression did not appear convex or concave on her face, but instead gave that small face a hint of exquisite fireworks atmosphere. Shuangtian's appearance instantly quieted down the noisy environment. "Miss Xie." Those girls were a bit timid and let go of their hands. "We just want to teach Fu Xinya a lesson. We just saw her talking to Master Sima again, and we want to help you vent your anger. Help me." Shuangtian walked step by step and stopped in front of the girl, who inexplicably felt a wave of oppression. But Shuangtian's goal is not that girl, but Lu Zai. Shuangtian's hand casually brushed across Lu Zai's face, and suddenly, she grabbed the other person's neck. Shuangtian pushed his hand and Lu Zai was directly pushed out of the rooftop, half of his body hanging in the air. "Ah!" The girl next to her screamed out in fear. "Shuangtian, you! Fu Xinya is also very incredible. Lu Zai, have I ever said that I will be in charge of Fu Xinya's affairs in the future?" Shuangtian examined the young man with a gloomy and terrifying aura. Lu Zai's face was as pale as paper, and the eyes that looked at Shuangtian were full of deep affection and confusion, as fragile as glass that would shatter at a touch. Shuangtian spoke very slowly, like Ling Qi. "Lu Zai, toys don't listen, I will be sad." "Xian." Lu Zai spoke softly, with a gentle voice that carried a seductive poison. At this moment, there was a terrifying wind in Lu Zai's ear, but he knew he should remain calm at this moment. As long as it is related to Fu Xinya, Shuangtian's emotions are very unstable. But this is a good thing, indicating that Shuangtian cares about him. Caring will make her heart soft. Making girls soft-hearted, Lu Zai thinks he has always been very skilled. Ah Xian, please calm down. Lu Zai held Xie Qingxuan's hand, which was pinching his neck, and gently rubbed it. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Miss only likes obedient toys, 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Miss only likes obedient toys, 6. From the perspective of a lover, Lu Zai is indeed very good at manipulating people's hearts. When Xie Qingxian was in despair time and time again, Lu Zai used gentle soothing to make Xie Qingxian addicted, and then willingly satisfied all his demands. It's just a pity, Lu Zai, I'm not the original owner. Don't rely on others to solve despair. What are you still doing here? Xie Qingxian tilted her head slightly and looked at the frightened girls next to her. Help me. Or continue to use me as a cover to bully Fu Xinya, who you don't like. No, Miss Xie. The girls are feeling a bit guilty. When dealing with people you dislike, don't pretend to be someone else, as it will decrease your satisfaction. Xie Qingxian looked at those girls with a look of resentment and unease in her eyes. A few girls kept retreating. And you, aren't you claiming to be just and fighting against evil forces like me? Do you want to exchange for Lu Zai? Xie Qingxian appeared very patient when dealing with Xinya. Xie Qingxian. Calm down a bit. Fu Xinya is much calmer than those girls. I remember, Fu Xinya. That day, I dragged the kidnappers down so that you could go call someone. Xie Qingxuan's plain and indifferent tone instantly made Fu Xinya blush. That day, Fu Xinya and Xie Qingxian were kidnapped together, but Xie Qingxian entangled the kidnappers and asked Fu Xinya to leave first. Xie Qingxian originally thought that someone would come to save her, but no one would save Fu Xinya. With such confidence, Xie Qingxuan's anger surged into her blood after knowing that everyone had gone to save Fu Xinya first. Hatred and humiliation became the only reason to support her, to endure the torture of kidnappers, and to persevere. So, it's normal for Xie Qingxian to have a big change in temperament, isn't it? But later on, everyone said that the kidnapping incident was over, and Fu Xinya could stand it strong, while the delicate young lady was psychologically fragile and unbearable. I really told Sima. Fu Xinya is feeling a bit flustered now. Well, I know, but unfortunately your health is too poor. As soon as you finished speaking, you fainted, right? I can explain slowly, you let go of Lu Zai first. Fu Xinya tried to distract Xie Qingxuan's attention with her words while slowly moving in her direction, hoping to take the opportunity to save Lu Zai. Didn't I say it? You exchange it, I'll let it go. Watching Fu Xinya's footsteps cover her ears and steel bells, Xie Qingxian became impatient and said, if I don't change, I'll leave here. If I'm not happy my hands slip, maybe. Please calm down, Xie Qingxian. We're leaving now, please calm down. Fu Xinya looked at Lu Zai with a stiff expression and said, Lu Zai, don't worry, I'll go find someone to help. I was deliberately bullied for so long to wait for Lu Zai to come. Why did Xie Qingxian appear? Watching Fu Xinya's departure, Xie Qingxian pursed her lips and said, Lu Zai, it seems that the person you like is not easy. In theory, she should be a strong and kind female lead, but Xie Qingxian just saw a small knife hidden in the sleeve of Fu Xinya's school uniform. If those girls who bully her go any further, they might end up with a smile on their face. So even if Lu Zai cannot come to save her, Fu Xinya will not be bullied. She was deliberately bullied. To save Lu Zai. Do you like Lu Zai so much? In the original text, even though the original owner and Lu Zai had already married, Fu Xinya repeatedly took the initiative to come knocking on their door, using reason and emotion to divorce the original owner and Lu Zai. She said, why can't you let him go? Why do you have to drag him to hell together? I beg you, let him go. You can do anything you want me to do. How touching love is. So if the original owner does not agree to divorce, it becomes a vicious female supporting character who forces the female lead to go abroad and causes misunderstandings between the male and female leads. And no matter what Fu Xinye does, she has all the trust and unreserved help of the male lead and supporting role. Apart from Fu Xinye being bullied by Sima Li in the early stage, no matter what happens afterwards, Sima Li and Lu Zai can heroically save the beauty at the most appropriate time, allowing her to turn danger into safety. The opportunities and luck of the original protagonist were also gradually taken away by the female protagonist, gradually falling from heaven into the abyss. Finally, the female protagonist married Lu Zai and went from grassroots to become the head mother of a wealthy family. Lu Zai also went from being an illegitimate child to becoming a capital tycoon that no one dared to underestimate, and both of them perfectly counterattacked. Xie Qingxian couldn't help but wonder, if it weren't for Lu Zai and Sima Li, could Fu Xinye's female lead aura really help her to the end? And Lu Zai, this person, is it true that he is a male protagonist favored by a wealthy family, who is gloomy and ruthless in his actions? If it weren't for being redeemed by the female protagonist in the later stage and forced to whitewash, how would it look like a setting of a major villain? Xie Qingxian seemed to have discovered something interesting, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised. Lu Zai keenly sensed that Xie Qingxuan's mood seemed to have improved. First time. When she mentioned Fu Xinye, surprisingly she didn't get angry. "Miss, I'm sorry." Lu Zai's voice was hoarse as he probed, "I really can't hold on anymore. Please spare me, Mississippi." Lu Zai's face was blown pale and transparent by the wind, like a pitiful pet pleasing its owner. "Lu Zai, do you know that? With your appearance, I really want to put you in a cage for people to admire. You look so beautiful, so many people must like you." Lu Zai's eyes suddenly became cold and profound, but in just an instant, they were hidden in the young man's wet and pitiful eyes. Xie Qingxian put away the mocking smile on her lips and pulled Lu Zai back. Before Lu Zai could recover, Xie Qingxian pushed him against the wall again, without any tenderness in his movements. Lu Zai slammed his back against the wall and let out a muffled groan. The young man suppressed his fluctuating breathing and looked at Xie Qingxian with a dull and unclear expression in his eyes. "Lu Zai." Xie Qingxian tiptoed lightly, her voice seeming to be teasing, and her words were unusually innocent. "You're so tall, I can't reach you. Come down, be good." Lu Zai trembled all over, a feeling that he didn't even have when he was suspended in the sky just now. By a stroke of fate, Lu Zai slowly lowered his body. Xie Qingxian took the opportunity to hug Lu Zai. The girl's cold fingertips pressed against her skin, gently caressing. Lu Zai's breath froze, as if a person who had just been rescued from drowning had been pushed into a pool of water, resurrected from death, alive and dead. The humiliation just now was replaced by this strange feeling, which made Lu Zai forget even instinctively pushing Xie Qingxian away. Xie Qingxuan's hand ran over Lu Zai's neck, and a red light flashed on her nails. It was the hallucinogen of the blood clan, and she could soon enjoy Lu Zai's blood. Xie Qingxian and Lu Zai from Class B of the art department, skipping class, points deducted. Ji Boyin's cold voice echoed behind Xie Qingxian. "Every world is an independent short story that I will write carefully, not hastily. I want to wear it quickly, and everyone can read it as an independent short story." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Miss Only Likes Obedient Toys, 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Miss Only Likes Obedient Toys, 7. Lu Zai suddenly woke up and pushed Xie Qingxian away. He looked at Ji Boyan standing not far away and quickly adjusted his emotions. Ji Boyan finished recording his scores, pushed his gold-rimmed glasses, and looked coldly at the two people in front of him. Lu Zai tidied up his clothes and brushed past Ji Boyan. The two teenagers were tall enough to look at each other, but neither of them glanced at each other. Lu Zai left the rooftop and only descended the first floor, leaning against the wall. He tugged at his shirt, and the clothes he had just sorted out became messy again. He covered his neck with his hand, and there was still a chill from the girl's fingertips. When the girl spoke just now, her breath flowed in her ear. I had an illusion of falling into a pile of feathers. Although my whole body was itchy, I felt light and ethereal. I wanted to ask that girl to give me a hand. Shuangtian. Are you treating me like a toy? Hello, Shuangtian. Lu Zhe, ambitious and restless, tidied up the torn clothes again, with a hint of mockery floating around his mouth. Miss, let's take a look. Finally, who is their plaything? However, Shuangtian's eating on the rooftop was interrupted, which made her somewhat unhappy. She tugged at her clothes and leaned against the rooftop, saying, President, it's not a good habit to watch others get close. Go back to class on time, your class has already finished last this week. Ji Boyan showed no interest in Shuangtian and turned around to leave. You're at the bottom. What should we do? Hee hee. Shuangtian watched the cold figure of the young man leaving and burst into laughter. Host. The white cat rushed out of nowhere and nestled at Shuangtian's feet, its fur shining in the sunlight, beautiful and unreal. Just now, although the male lead appeared to be submissive, he must have taken revenge. Based on past experience, you will be very miserable, is that right? As soon as the previously bound host enters the story, they have put in a lot of effort towards Lu Zai. Lu Zai has not fallen in love with the original owner, changing the ending of him sending the original owner to prison for Fu Xinyo. Host, what you are doing now will only make Lu Zai hate you even more. Compared to the anxiety of the white cat, Shuangtian appeared very calm. She placed her finger on her lips, as if savoring it. Just now. Just a little short, you can suck on Lu Zai's blood. Is it so difficult to eat now? The Tang Tang Blood Clan Queen has lost her blood soul and can only use hallucinogens when the opponent's willpower is weak, in order to consume blood. It seems a bit embarrassing. I chose this small world first because I felt fragments of blood, but where is the blood? Host, if this continues, the mission will fail and you will die. It's true that you will die. The previous hosts were very obedient to themselves and also very afraid of themselves. Why is this host different? I always feel like the mission is about to fail again. Shuangtian chuckled silently. I suddenly understand why this useless system has never been successful. Too noisy, isn't it cool to create a high-cold system? I don't like the scene of forgiving scumbags. Shuangtian looked at the students coming and going from the rooftop with cold eyes. But the last words of the original owner are to hate Lu Zai for not falling in love with her. I will fall in love, after all, love without permission is also love. To deal with scumbags, one should step by step let them fall into the spider webs they weave themselves. Such a beautiful boy, stuck in a spider web and struggling to the death, will definitely become a work of art. Shuangtian seemed to have thought of some extremely interesting scene and smiled brightly. Under the sunshine, the girl's smile seemed to glow. System. Is this host abnormal? Why can't I understand what she said, or should I update the program? The next day, Shuangtian brought Lu Zai to Ji Boyan's studio, and seemingly invited her to discuss the performance for the end of the month school anniversary. Ji Boyan's studio is located on the highest floor of the art building and is the largest independent studio in the entire Yunzhou University. The entire studio is filled with various oil paintings and semi-finished products being painted. The black and white minimalist style lounge, like Ji Boyan, is filled with a cold atmosphere. The student president's studio is the most mysterious and desirable place for all students at Yunzhou University, representing their identity and high status. The only people who have been able to freely enter and exit this place have been Ji Boyan, Sima Li, and Shuangtian. At this moment, Shuangtian stood in front of a huge oil painting and stared for a long time. The original owner had always thought that this place belonged to a few of their friends, but did not expect that one day her position would be replaced by Fu Xinya. "Ah Xian, why didn't you wait for me to come home last night? I bought a lot of food, but you left." Sima Li walked in with great strides. Shuangtian stepped aside and accidentally stepped on the paint without a lid. The traces of paint on her shoes made Shuangtian frown. "Look, I bought you all the strawberry-flavored food, bread, cookies, jelly, all of them." Sima Li poured the things in his hand all over the table. "What's wrong with you, Ah Xian? Haven't you come over yet? Didn't you say you wanted to eat yesterday? My shoes are dirty." Shuangtian looked down at her shoes, the white ones stained with red paint, as if splattered with blood. "Shoes? Sima Li doesn't seem to understand very well. It's just a pair of shoes. Why is Ah Xian so disappointed?" But the girl seemed to really like those shoes, and her gaze never shifted. The sunlight just fell on the girl's body, a layer of orange halo, warm and gentle. "It's okay, what do you like? I'll buy it for you. If one pair is not enough, just buy 10 pairs." Shuangtian's lips curved into a faint smile as she shook her legs and looked at Lu Zai, who had been silent beside her. "Lu Zai, help me clean it." Sima Li turned around and looked at Shuangtian in confusion. Isn't Ah Xian good to Lu Zai before? He also said that even if he is an illegitimate child, he is still a young master of the Lu family. Let everyone not make things difficult for him. Why did he suddenly change his attitude? Because Shuangtian was leaning towards helping Lu Zai, Sima Li had many arguments with her, and in the end, they all ended in compromise. Lu Zai lowered his eyes slightly, concealing the darkness in his eyes. He slowly squatted down and wiped Shuangtian's shoes with his shirt sleeves, feeling extremely humble, as if serving his queen. If it weren't for knowing that in the later stage, he would treat Shuangtian, who loved her deeply, as a slave, just to quell the resentment he had when he surrendered to the Xie family. Shuangtian really thought that this young man had been tamed. "Lu Zai, the original owner did nothing to you but was treated like this. I don't do anything, it seems a bit unfair. But how could the traces of oil painting paint be wiped clean just by the sleeves?" Watching the traces of oil painting paint still spreading, Shuangtian became impatient and turned to leave. Lu Zai remained in a squatting position with his head down without moving. Shuangtian sat on the chair, shook her feet, and her shoes fell to the ground. She stepped on Lu Zai's shoulder with her foot and gently kicked him. It didn't hurt, but it made people feel a tingling sensation. "Hey, Lu Zai, my shoes are custom-made for personal use. How can you compensate me?" Everyone is actively checking in and leaving messages, so that the book circle can have popularity. Woo. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Miss Only Likes Obedient Toys, 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Miss Only Likes Obedient Toys, 8. The girl was wearing white socks, and she casually tapped her shoulder. Lu Zai felt humiliation mixed with inexplicable excitement. "Ah Xian, I'll buy it for you. There's no need to be angry about the illegitimate son of the Lu family." Sima Li walked over with his eyebrows furrowed. In the eyes of Sima Li and the others, the Lu family's family business was nothing, let alone being illegitimate children. He's just a toy of Shuangtian. So later, when this toy snatched away the girl he liked, he couldn't accept it and kept confronting Lu Zai. Unfortunately, Sima Li is still too naive. If you don't like someone, you have to deal with them when they are most vulnerable. In this world, there is no such thing as victory without martial arts, only that soldiers never tire of deceit. Moreover, some people may seem fragile, but in reality, they have very sharp claws. Shuangtian, put on your shoes. This is my studio. The door was pushed open, and Ji Boyan came in holding a book. He placed the book on the table and began organizing it. It will smell. Taste. Shuangtian smiled. Ji Boyan, do you want to come and smell it? No need, just stand here and you can smell it. Ji Boyan continued to tidy up his books until they were neatly arranged. Sigh, sigh, sigh. Alright, what's going on between you two? Sima Li stood between the two. Shuangtian walked barefoot and sat down on the sofa step by step like a queen. If you don't want it, I'll just throw it away. Ji Boyan walked up to the pair of shoes. If you dare to throw it, I'll sue Aunt Ji. In the original work, there was not much mention of Ji Boyan, only that his engagement with Shuangtian was due to his mother's strong affection for her, so he fulfilled his duties as a fiancé until Shuangtian withdrew. Speaking of his mother, Ji Boyan's eyes flickered slightly as he looked at Shuangtian, and then looked at Shuangtian's barefoot appearance with a hint of displeasure. Shuangtian innocently let go of her shoulder and said, "What can I do? I don't have shoes to wear, otherwise, would you take off your shoes and let me wear them?" He is like a little rascal. Xian, Bo Yin has that problem, he's a cleanliness fetish, understand it. Sima Li quickly became a mediator. Xian and Bo Yin used to get along very politely, but since Bo Yin saved Xian, there has been some difference. Ji Boyan lifted his golden glasses and looked at Shuangtian coldly. "I'll clean up before I come back." What an interesting fiancé, eh? After Ji Boyan left, Sima Li packed his shoes in a paper bag next to him, and his movements were skilled, as if he was accustomed to this girl as his instinct. Sima Li was well known for the beloved love of the original owner. He favored the original owner as a princess, but in the end, he said he liked ordinary people. Shuangtian smiled and watched as Sima Li tidied up his shoes, and then called to instruct the driver to bring new shoes over, but the corner of her eye caught Lu Zai's reaction. Lu Zai's thoughts were mixed as he looked at Shuangtian with a smile on his lips. In his eyes, the young girl looked gently at Sima Li, her expression completely different from her disdainful self. A dark and damp seed accidentally spilled on the young man's already decaying heart. After everything was arranged, Sima Li sat next to Shuangtian and said, "Xian, I want to discuss the interview for the school anniversary performance with you." Next to him, Lu Zai was also about to sit down, but Shuangtian pressed his foot against his chest and said, "Lu Zai, are you my toy? Are you qualified to sit?" Lu Zai was taken aback, his lips tightly pursed, unable to discern his emotions. "Here." Shuangtian gestured with her eyes. Lu Zai walked over and obediently knelt beside Shuangtian. Shuangtian pinched Lu Zai's chin and lifted the boy's head, saying, "This is your position, remember." Shuangtian felt a trembling sensation throughout the young man's body, as well as a sinister emotion that was about to erupt, but his voice was unusually calm. "Remember. Don't worry about him, Xian. I need your help with something." Sima Li flattered and pulled Shuangtian's sleeve. "What's going on?" Shuangtian opened a loaf of bread, tore off a small strip, and placed it on Lu Zai's mouth like feeding a puppy. Lu Zai obediently opened his mouth, bit a corner of the bread, and slowly chewed it. During the school anniversary program interview, Xiaoya didn't have a spot, but she plays the piano very well. "I've heard of it before. Can you help me talk to the teacher? The club teacher has always trusted you." The interview for Yunzhou University's anniversary performance is a very important plot. In the original text, Fu Xinya was not selected to participate in the selection. She was unwilling and secretly slipped in. As a result, she missed the game because other classmates were dissatisfied with her parachute and trapped her in the changing room. Later, Lu Zai and Sima Li arrived one after another, and the hero saved the beauty. When Fu Xinya was most vulnerable and helpless, they appeared in front of her. This matter has become an important milestone in promoting the development of their relationship. "Sure." Shuangtian responded casually. Sima Li had originally planned to persuade Shuangtian for a long time, but suddenly he stopped talking. So you agreed. Even Lu Zai suddenly looked up, as if he didn't recognize the girl in front of him. She actually agreed to tell the teacher. Isn't Xian very averse to Xiaoya? Lu Zai has also been trying to figure out how to get Fu Xinya to participate in the interview, and the result is just such a simple solution. What expressions do you two have? What, I shouldn't agree. Xie Qingxian bit open a jelly and fed the remaining half to Lu Zai's mouth. Lu Zai hesitated for a moment, but was directly stuffed into his mouth by the girl. Jelly crashed into the mouth, and in the moment it was bitten, Lu Zai's teeth heavily bit his tongue, causing a bloody smell to overflow in his mouth. Xie Qingxian casually wiped her hands. I just suddenly felt that Fu Xinya was really good at playing the piano and could give her a try. This interview requires a recommendation from the teacher. Although Fu Xinya has some talent in piano, her professionalism is not sufficient, so the teacher did not select her. However, everyone thought it was because the original owner was playing tricks on her. Because of this matter, Sima Li, who had been doting on the original owner from childhood to adulthood, argued with the original owner for the first time. So this time, Fu Xinya, I'll give you the stage, and you should showcase your outstanding talent well. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Miss only likes obedient toys, 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Miss only likes obedient toys, 9. The rain today is too heavy, isn't it? Yeah, young Master Lu is really pitiful. Two servants hurriedly walked downstairs. Poor. If it weren't for his ambition, how could such a haughty young man submit? Xie Qingxian stood on the balcony, the dim yellow light of the floor lamp casting onto her black silk pajamas, with a warm halo. She shook the wine glass in her hand and looked at the glass that had been soaked by the rain. The night wind is blowing and the rain is raging. The boy stood in the yard, soaking wet and looking extremely disheveled. Miss, young Master Lu has returned and said that the necklace has not been found. I hope Miss can forgive me. Maid Zhang gently knocked on the door at the door. After searching for a whole 4 hours before coming back, Lu Zai must be very strange. It's clear that he stole the necklace himself, why is it missing? Xie Qingxian took a sip of the red liquid in her wine glass, and her lips became rosy and beautiful due to the infection of the liquid. In the original text, after the original owner was kidnapped and returned, he was not actually good to Lu Zai at first, and the change in attitude happened today. Today, after returning home from Ji Boyan's studio, the original owner discovered that he had lost his mother's belongings that he had been carrying with him all along. Lu Zai disregarded the heavy rain to retrieve Xie Qingxuan's mother's belongings. Lu Zai, who was soaked all over, smiled at the original owner, holding the recovered relic in his hand. It looked like a carefully disguised cannibal flower, with delicate petals unfolding one by one, ready to eat. The original owner actually began to believe that at the time of the kidnapping, perhaps Lu Zai really wanted to save himself. She gave up her struggle step by step and let herself slide into the swamp dug by Lu Zai. So host, do you know that Lu Zai is a bitter meat trap and still cooperate with him? The white cat's paws touched the emerald necklace placed on the table. That is the relic of the original owner's mother that was stolen by Lu Zai. Since he thinks that bitter meat trick can move me, why not satisfy him? After all, he is the male protagonist, the son of luck, and he still needs some treatment. Lu Zai completely grasped the personality of the original owner and repeatedly showed weakness to make the original owner sympathize. Xie Qingxian placed the wine glass on the table and said, so all you have in your space is these artificial blood. Host, we haven't integrated yet, there are very few things that can be used in space. So what do I want you to do? Xie Qingxian looked at the white cat and said, perhaps you can be my blood bag. Don't, host, wake up. I'm the system. If you don't like cats, you can choose another form for me next time. The white cat meowed and ran away. Why is this host so terrifying? Watching the rapidly fleeing white cat, Shuangtian sneered, but her eyes were indifferent. A flash of lightning flashed through the air, with thunderous sounds. The boy in the rain swayed for a moment, seeming extremely weak. Just as Lu Zai felt that he had been forgotten, the door to the villa opened. The girl was wearing silk pajamas, leaning against the door and waving at herself. She calling herself. She still softened her heart. Lu Zai felt a bit dizzy, and his gaze fell behind the girl. Warm lighting, fragrant food, just like home. The living room was brightly lit, and the table was filled with sumptuous food. Lu Zai, soaked all over, stood at the door, his thin body swaying and making people feel pity. Come and eat, Lu Zai. The girl smiled happily, as if she hadn't seen Lu Zai's whole body in embarrassment. Miss, young Master Lu has been caught in the rain. Why don't you let young Master Lu take a shower first? Zhang's mother looked at the child with some concern. All the servants of the Xie family love Lu Zai very much, and like the original owner, they believe that Lu Zai is sincere to the original owner. Otherwise, how could they compromise for so many years? Is it not true love, or what? So after marriage, even if Lu Zai secretly imprisoned Xie Qingxian and publicly claimed that the young lady was going to study abroad, the servants of the Xie family had no suspicion at all. I thought you would bring the necklace back, but it was left for me by my mother. Xie Qingxian blew on the soup, and the heat of the soup made her face a bit blurry. Lu Zai's eyes were pitch black, and his hands tightly grasped the damp corners of his clothes. He clearly remembers putting the necklace in the locker room. How could it disappear? This sudden change disrupted Lu Zai's plan. Lu Zai, who has always had a clear mind, dare not act rashly at this moment. The necklace is very important to the young lady. If it's lost now, the young lady must be very angry. Sorry, miss, I couldn't find the necklace. Sure enough, toys are just toys, nothing can be done. Although he had already entered the room, upon hearing these words, Lu Zai's body suddenly turned cold. This girl can always easily step on the bottom of a person's heart. Lu Zai lowered his head and frowned, clenched his palms tightly, with a smile on his face that carried a hint of sadness. Miss, I was originally useless, otherwise I wouldn't have been abandoned by the Lu family. Lu Zai looked at Xie Qingxian with his best wet eyes. Eat first, I'm hungry. The girl's voice carried a hint of compromise as expected. Lu Zai was about to serve the table, but was stopped by Xie Qingxuan's gaze and said, Lu Zai, you're just a toy. You're still so dirty now. Why do you come to eat at the table? The heart that had just succeeded was suddenly shot down heavily, and the violence in the boy's bones could hardly be concealed. When Lu Zai first came to the Xie family, he was eating with servants in the kitchen, but in just 1 month, he was treated differently by the young lady. The entire Xie family, except for the old man, dare not underestimate Lu Zai and treat him like a young master. But today, what's wrong with Mississippi? The servants next to each other looked at each other, unable to understand Miss Xie's thoughts. Lu Zai clenched his fists tightly and silently dragged his wet body back to the kitchen. Zhang Mama, could you please tidy up Lu Zai's room? I need to make a new piano room. Can we tolerate this? He is truly amazing, truly worthy of being the protagonist who sleeps on hardships and experiences hardships. So, young Master Lu. Young Master. Zhang's mother, I am the only miss in the Xie family. I hope you remember. The young lady smiled gently, but her eyes were filled with disdain. Yes, miss, I was wrong. Where does Lu Zai live, Mississippi? No. Xie Qingxian gestured to the corner room not far away with her eyes. But miss, that's our servant's room. Zhang's mother is a bit embarrassed, that boy is indeed a bit heartbreaking. Zhang Ma, how can he be compared to you? The girl wiped her mouth with a handkerchief. You have an employment relationship with the Xie family. The Xie family invited you, but you paid a high salary, and he gave it away for nothing. The disdain in the girl's tone made the boy's heart sink heavily. But miss, the room may not be cleaned up tonight. Then let's sleep in the living room first. Shuangtian put down her chopsticks and hooked her lips. She seems to care about herself very much, but it also seems that she doesn't care about herself at all. She seems to have softened her heart towards herself, but at the same time, she seems to be more cruel to herself than ever before. Lu Zai's chest suddenly felt a bit stuffy, and his wet clothes pressed against his skin, cold and sticky, like a snake wrapped around him, a bit disgusting. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Miss only likes obedient toys, 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Miss only likes obedient toys, 10. The rain stopped, and the late-night Xie family mansion looked a bit ghostly. Lu Zai curled up by the sofa in the living room, half asleep and half awake, feeling drowsy. Next to the stairs on the second floor, Shuangtian gently caressed the white cat in her arms, its eyes shining at night, somewhat eerie. It's really heartbreaking, isn't it? Host, this male lead is not foolish and sweet. Later, he was also moved by the kindness of the female lead and returned to the right path. Treating him like this always feels like he will die even more tragically. The white cat let out a worried sigh. From the beginning, it was Lu Zai who actively lured the original owner, used the original owner for revenge, misled her, and led her step by step onto a path of no return. Shuangtian walked down the stairs step by step holding the cat. The girl's posture was elegant, and time seemed to slow down because of her. Why is it that in the end, he changed for love, was healed and redeemed by the female protagonist, while the original protagonist only received a sentence of self-inflicted blame? In the dimly lit living room, the girl's smile carried a hint of enchanting beauty. So, people like Lu Zai should not be soft-hearted from the beginning. If pets are not properly trained, they will bite people. Shuangtian stopped beside Lu Zai, and the boy's long eyelashes moved slightly. Pretend to sleep. Shuangtian squatted down and placed the back of her hand on the boy's forehead. The injury on Lu Zai's body is not yet completely healed, and he has been caught in the rain again. Now his high fever is not subsiding. The young man's wound cracked and blood stuck to his clothes. Shuangtian took out scissors from the nearby drawer and was about to cut the boy's clothes when her hand was caught in vain. Lu Zai clearly lacks energy due to injury. He looked at Shuangtian, with crimson at the end of his eyes due to a fever. Your wound is inflamed, I will apply medicine for you. Shuangtian leaned over and whispered in Lu Zai's ear. Why? Lu Zai's subconscious questioning. Shuangtian knew that Lu Zai was really confused. When he was sober, Lu Zai would never say such revealing words. The rain was intentionally done by Lu Zai. The fever-reducing medicine given by Zhang's mother was intentionally thrown away by Lu Zai. He used his body as a bargaining chip to threaten the original owner. But later, when the original owner begged him to save Xie's enterprise, Lu Zai deliberately made her stand in the rain, indirectly causing the original owner to suffer from pneumonia. Lu Zai, who had retrieved everything, looked at the original owner in such a disheveled state, appearing calm and indifferent. Miss, do you remember? I've been in the rain for you, and at that time, did you ever think that the high and mighty Miss would one day beg me as a servant? Shuangtian watched as the exquisitely looking young man gradually lost his strength. She held on to Lu Zai's hand, her voice carrying a hint of laziness and a slightly awakened nasal sound. Ao, I've realized that I can't bear to be with you after all. You're so pitiful. Lu Zai's hand loosened. Shuangtian gently patted Lu Zai's back and drugged him, saying, You're so well behaved. I can give you anything you want. Pain. Lu Zai seemed to be burning and groaning softly, Mom, it hurts. It's okay, I'm here. Shuangtian smiled, her eyes shining with cunning in the darkness. Mom, don't leave. At this moment, the boy finally showed his youthful appearance at the age of 18 or 19. Lu Zai hugged Xie Qingxuan's waist, exerting a slight force, unwilling to let go, as if this was the only floating wood for the drowning person. Watching Lu Zai's face turn slightly red due to fever, Xie Qingxian suddenly understood why the original owner was tempted by such a Lu Zai. Exquisite appearance, weak and harmless, like a dandelion that blows away easily. So in the original work, the original owner not only took care of Lu Zai all night, but also agreed to let him watch his interview performance. However, the original owner did not know that Lu Zai did not want to watch her performance from the beginning, but rather to see Fu Xinyo. Xie Qingxian wanted to withdraw her hand, but was held by the boy. Lu Zai, whose consciousness was blurred, carefully rubbed his face against Xie Qingxuan's palm, like an obedient little dog. The young man humbly begged, "Don't leave, please, don't leave me. Ao, go to sleep. I've been here all along." Xie Qingxian looked at the young man with mist around his eyes, revealing a thought-provoking smile. The warm embrace, the delicate touch of the palm on the cheek, touched the most fragile secret in the young man's heart. Lu Zai seems to have had a very, very long dream. In my dream, I saw my mother holding me tenderly. The long-lost warmth was addictive, host. White Cat suddenly jumped to Xie Qingxuan's feet, his tone filled with uncontrollable excitement. The original owner's hatred value dropped half a star. "You're so amazing, host. You've only dropped half a star in a few days." Xie Qingxuan's gaze fell on Lu Zai's bleeding wound, slightly gloomy. "Too soft-hearted. Just begging you, will the hatred ease?" Not enough. Throwing the unconscious Lu Zai to the servant, Xie Qingxian returned to the room without hesitation. The little white cat jumped happily on the carpet and said, "Host, how did you do it? You treated Lu Zai so badly, he begged you not to leave. Don't wrongly accuse me. Why did I treat him poorly? I just condescended to help him apply medicine." Xie Qingxian was admiring her newly made nail art, with dots of red resembling scattered rose petals. The white cat wags its tail and cannot be denied. After Lu Zai fainted, he made a gesture and threw it directly to Zhang's mother. "It really used to be thrown. Host, just tell me and let me accumulate some experience too." The little white cat rubbed Xie Qingxuan's palm with its furry head to please. "This is the first time that half a star has disappeared so quickly. This is all learned from the male protagonist who strategizes with us." Xie Qingxian took the opportunity to masturbate the white cat. Giving charcoal in the snow is always easier to be grateful for than adding icing on the cake. Even the person who gave charcoal in the snow may have wanted to burn down your house. Xie Qingxian had a deep gaze and drank the remaining red liquid from the cup in one gulp. Besides, isn't all of this exactly what he did to the original owner? "I just borrowed a little bit." After that night, Lu Zai took a leave of absence at home and cooperated in taking medication and undergoing examinations. His body recovered quickly. The servants of the house often see this young man standing in the yard during the day, standing for a whole day, until the young master Sima sees the young lady back and then goes back to his own room. Lu Zai knew that something was wrong with him lately. He didn't know where the problem was, and he was a bit vague about what happened that night. He really wanted to ask Xie Qingxian a good question. But Xie Qingxian never gave him a chance. She always got off Sima Li's car happily and walked past her with a cold expression. The servants saw all of this and were all moved by the young man's deep affection. Lu Zai's illness has finally completely healed, and he and Xie Qingxian are going to school together again. And today is also the day for the interview of Yunzhou University's anniversary program. Unlike before, today Xie Qingxian did not tease or punish Lu Zai. She turned on the computer as soon as she got in the car, completely ignoring the boy. But Lu Zai inexplicably felt a bit cramped. Xie Qingxian jokingly glanced at Lu Zai and continued with her homework. "Why, my pet wants to watch Fu Xinya's performance, so happy." End of this chapter.